There is a moment that comes somewhere in the middle of the afternoon. You have finished your lunch. You sit down, and the chair seems heavier than it was this morning. Your arms feel like they belong to a slower, heavier version of yourself. Your eyes want to close, even though the day is still hours from finished. If you want to understand why blood sugar surges keep pulling the clarity out of your afternoons, and why the inflammation that has been settling into the tissue around your pancreas keeps resisting everything you have tried, do not go searching in the pharmacy aisle. Do not look to the management sheets a rushed appointment produced. Look instead toward something far older, something the elder healers of the mountain villages north of Kyoto have been preparing with a single spoon for more generations than any of us can count. I am glad you are here today, my friend. What I am about to share matters beyond your own mornings. It reaches as far as the Sunday when your grandchild takes your hand across the kitchen table and you are present enough, clear-headed enough, to hold it back without having to excuse yourself to lie down. This knowledge does not arrive in an appointment room because it does not fit inside a prescription bottle, and 12 minutes was never built to hold it. It has been eliminating the heaviness that builds after meals, shutting down the inflammatory cascade that quietly steals energy and vitality, for as long as the mountain villages have had kitchens and healers to tend them. Today, that changes for you. My name is Master Takeshi Okamura. For more than 60 years, I have walked the path of Japanese traditional healing in the mountain town of Kurama, north of Kyoto, where my family has tended to this village across many generations. The knowledge I carry came from my grandfather, who received it from his father before him, a revered practitioner of kampo, and the old mountain remedies that this land has offered since long before any of us were born. I share these teachings not to impress, but because I have watched too many dear friends in their later years carry something that the old ways address with great gentleness and care. My grandfather used to say that almost all the suffering he witnessed in the body began in one place, the belly. He meant the whole of the digestive center, the gut, the pancreas, the organs that cluster and communicate around them. When the belly is calm and the inner terrain is whole, he said, inflammation has nowhere to take root. The body's immunity moves freely, the hormones find their rhythm, and sleep comes without the wrestling that exhausts so many older bodies. Research from institutions across Asia and the West is now confirming, with great patience and precision, what my grandfather watched over half a century of caring for this village, for 5 generations in the mountain households of this region, and for the elder healers I studied under in my early years. The pattern has been consistent. The men and women who kept a particular morning preparation showed far lower rates of the blood sugar instability and the chronic low-level inflammation of the digestive organs that now reaches so deeply into the lives of people in the valleys and cities below. Researchers who came to this region to study the longevity patterns of the older population noted with measured surprise what those of us born here had simply grown up watching. My grandfather nodded when he heard. He said the laboratories are now measuring what our people have observed in these mountains for a very long time. And then he continued on with his day. Before we go further, I want to tell you this. One part of what I am going to share today will surprise you, even if you have been paying close attention to your blood sugar and your digestion for many years. 9 out of 10 people who have tried to address both pancreatic inflammation and the blood sugar spikes that follow meals have been approaching it in an order that reduces the benefit considerably. Each step I will walk you through builds on the one before it, and the order matters. Stay with me through to the end, and you will understand exactly what I mean. Before we begin, I would like to ask you something. Leave a comment below and tell me your age. And tell me this as well. How long have you been noticing the heaviness after meals, or the changes in your blood sugar that pull your afternoon energy away? I read every single comment on this channel, and your answers shape what I bring to you in the teachings ahead. Every story here matters. In this teaching, dear friend, I am going to share 4 things with you. First, I will explain what the standard morning routine is quietly asking of the pancreas before most people are even aware there is a concern. Second, I will share the single spoon preparation that the elder healers of this region have used for generations to work with the body's glucose response at its source. Third, I will walk you through the precise sequence, each step ordered because the order matters greatly here. And fourth, I will share two quiet companion practices that deepen the work the preparation begins. The preparation itself takes less than 3 minutes each morning and may address what many more complicated approaches have not been able to reach. One small thing before we continue. If you have found value in these teachings, I would ask you, as a small favor, to consider subscribing. Many who find this channel for the first time do not realize they have not yet subscribed until a teaching they needed does not appear in their feed. What we build here together reaches more families in need when you take that quiet step. Now, the morning routine that most people carry past 60 was shaped for a younger body, and it is asking the pancreas to perform a task it is no longer well suited to perform without preparation. The typical morning begins with something sweet, a glass of juice, a piece of toast, fruit taken before anything else. The aging pancreas receives this glucose signal while it is still in its slowest state of the day. The beta cells that produce the insulin response have been declining in number since the late 40s, quietly and without announcement. When glucose arrives in a surge before those cells have had time to settle into the rhythm of the day, the tissue around the pancreas responds with a low inflammatory signal. You may not feel it as pain. You may feel it the way one notices a lamp that has slowly begun to dim gradually without a clear moment you can point to and say, there, that is when it changed. The elder healers of this region observed this pattern in the bodies they cared for across many decades of practice, and they built their morning preparation around addressing it before the first meal rather than after. And now we arrive at the teaching at the center of today's sharing. For more than 5 generations in the households of Kurama, the elder healers have prepared the same simple thing each morning before the first meal. It begins with 1 spoon of kuzu root starch, the same plant that grows along the hillsides above this town, dissolved in a small cup of warm water with half a teaspoon of freshly grated ginger. We call this preparation kuzuyu. The kuzu root contains a family of compounds that researchers now classify as isoflavones, among them a molecule they have named. In the body, pyrarine moves to the receptor sites that govern how the body's cells receive glucose from the bloodstream. Think of those receptor sites as small doors set into the walls of each cell. When the doors have been stiffened by years of inflammation and repeated glucose surging, glucose begins to accumulate in the blood rather than entering the tissues where it is needed. Pyrarine, research suggests, helps ease the resistance in those doors, supporting the smoother movement of glucose into the cells. For a person past 70, those doors have often been partially resistant for years before any blood panel catches the pattern clearly. Beyond the glucose effect, the kuzu root also carries compounds that work on the gut lining itself, supporting a calmer environment for the digestive organs, including the pancreas, which sits in close proximity to the gut and shares its inflammatory signals. The aging reality here is this. After 65, the beta cells of the pancreas begin a slow decline in both number and efficiency. The margin for recovery after a glucose surge narrows with each passing decade. The preparation I am sharing works alongside this reality, reducing the inflammatory burden on the tissue so that the cells that remain can function without being asked to work inside a constant low fire. The first proof I have trusted is not from a laboratory. It is from the women in this village who lived past 90 with clear minds and light steps, and from the men on the upper paths who tended the forest into their 80s. They drank kuzuyu each morning and called it the morning settling. The second proof has come more recently, as researchers studying the compounds in kuzu root across multiple investigations have observed measurable support for glucose reception and reductions in inflammatory markers in older adult populations. The laboratories are, as always, arriving where the mountains have stood for many generations. I want to share the story of a woman named Frances. She is 73 years old, a retired bookkeeper from Chattanooga, Tennessee, who found this channel after many months of what she described as a complete loss of her afternoons. She could feel the moment her blood sugar peaked after lunch, the heaviness gathering in her arms, the way her vision seemed to soften at the edges, the reaching for something sweet to pull herself back up, which only began the cycle again. What had been overlooked in Frances's situation was not her diet, which was careful and consistent, but the way her mornings were already setting the pancreas up to struggle long before noon arrived. She began the kuzuyu preparation each morning. 1 spoon of kuzu root starch, dissolved in 2/3 of a cup of warm water, stirred until the water runs clear, with half a teaspoon of freshly grated ginger, taken 15 minutes before her breakfast. Within 3 weeks, she reported that the afternoon heaviness had lessened noticeably. By the end of 6 weeks, her fasting glucose reading, which she tracked each morning at home, had improved by 14%. Her physician noted the shift at her follow-up appointment and asked what she had changed. Frances wrote to me afterward. She said something I have not forgotten. She said, "Master Okamura, I got my afternoons back. I did not realize how much I had given up until they returned to me. Now I will walk you through the sequence because the order matters. The first step is timing. Take the preparation 15 to 20 minutes before your first meal of the day. This window allows the compounds from the kuzu root to reach the digestive receptors before glucose from food begins to arrive. Taking it alongside the meal or after it reduces the benefit considerably. The second step is temperature. The water should be warm throughout, not boiling. When the water is too hot, it alters the starch structure that gives kuzu its protective coating quality in the digestive tract. Aim for water that feels comfortable to hold against the inside of your wrist without discomfort. The third step is the ginger. Half a teaspoon of freshly grated ginger is not a flavoring here. Fresh ginger contains active compounds called gingerols that support healthy circulation, including to the pancreatic tissue itself. This circulation is often reduced in older bodies and rarely discussed as a contributing factor to pancreatic inflammation. Grate your ginger fresh each morning rather than reaching for the dried powder. Here, dear friend, I want to pause on something that sits beneath everything we have discussed today. After the age of 60, the community of beneficial bacteria living in the gut begins a slow and consistent decline. Many people try to address this with a probiotic supplement and find the results modest. Here is what the elder healers understood long before the science arrived to explain it. Probiotics alone will not restore what has been lost, because the bacteria cannot thrive without the prebiotic fiber they need to survive and multiply, and they cannot produce the healing compounds that repair the gut lining. The postbiotics, without both the living culture and the fiber working together in full. Think of it as a garden. The probiotic is the seed. The prebiotic fiber is the soil. The postbiotic is the fruit the garden produces. Without all three working in concert, the garden does not grow, and every morning preparation, every careful habit you build, sits on weaker ground than it could. The fourth step in the sequence is consistency. 7 days without interruption is the minimum for the preparation to reveal its pattern of benefit. This is the reason the title of today's teaching says what it says. 7 days is the beginning. I want to pause here, my friend. Many of you write to ask how to bring that three-part foundation together in a form the older body can receive consistently, day after day. After watching many people walk this path, there is one preparation I have landed on. It is called BoochBod. It is a kombucha gummy, not a pill, which matters greatly to those who have grown weary of capsules and powders. It contains two clinically studied strains, lactospore and postbiotics LM1004, alongside prebiotic fiber, postbiotics, kombucha, and dandelion root, the same bitter root that the healers of these mountain villages have gathered from the hillsides each spring and used for digestive care since long before I was born. Slippery elm supports the gut lining alongside it. Over 30,000 people are now taking it as part of their daily practice. You will find the link in the description below. And please speak to your doctor before starting any supplement, as with any addition to your daily care. Now, two quiet companion practices that deepen the work the morning preparation begins. The first is roasted barley tea, which we call mugicha in these mountains. Barley contains a form of soluble fiber called beta-glucan, which forms a gentle, slowing layer along the inner wall of the small intestine, reducing the rate at which glucose moves into the bloodstream after a meal. Drink 1 cup of warm mugicha within 30 minutes of your midday meal, slowly and without hurry. The second is movement, brief and consistent, within 30 minutes of your largest meal. A walk of 10 minutes allows the muscles of the legs and lower body to take up glucose through pathways that do not depend entirely on insulin signaling. My grandfather walked the stone path behind our family home each afternoon into his 90s. He called it his digestive walk. The name told you everything you needed to know about what it was for. One word of care, dear friend. If you are currently taking medication for blood sugar or blood pressure, please speak with your physician before making changes to your morning routine. The practices I have shared today are gentle, but your physician knows your full history, and that partnership matters. After more than 60 years of watching what actually helps these preparations take hold in the lives of real people, I want to share 3 principles that most people do not come to until they have been practicing for a long time. Number 1 concerns temperature. The kuzuyu preparation releases its protective compounds most reliably when the water is warm throughout, not cold and not boiling. If you must choose between cool and hot, always choose cool. Number 2 concerns the ginger, fresh over dried without exception. The gingerols that support circulation to the pancreatic tissue are most concentrated in the freshly grated root. Dried ginger shifts the compound profile in ways that matter more than most people realize, and the difference shows in how the body receives the preparation. Number 3 concerns the conditions of beginning. If you can, start this practice on a morning when you have nowhere urgent to be. The body's response to any new daily ritual is shaped, in part, by the stress level of the first week. Let the first 7 days carry some stillness. 3 mistakes I see most often when people begin. The first mistake is taking the preparation with the meal rather than before it. This is the most common error. The 15 to 20 minute window before food is what allows the preparation to reach the receptors first. Taking it alongside breakfast cuts the benefit substantially. The second mistake is using kuzu root powder that has been sitting in a pantry for more than a year. Kuzu starch degrades slowly over time. Purchase in small quantities, store in a cool and dry place, and replace it every few months. The third mistake is stopping after 4 days because nothing dramatic has appeared. The change this preparation brings is gradual and internal. 7 days is where the work begins. What it continues to do over 14 days and 21 is what most people do not stay long enough to witness. Now, my friend, let me leave you with what matters most. What you are protecting with this one small morning spoon goes deeper than a blood sugar number on a chart. You are protecting the morning when you can climb the porch steps without gripping the railing and feel, for a quiet moment, the ease of a body that is still cooperating with you. You are protecting the Sunday afternoon when your grandchild reaches across the table and you are present enough, clear-headed enough, to reach back without the fog that has been stealing those hours from you. These are the things worth tending with great care. It is never too late. I have watched bodies past 80 begin to respond to the gentlest most consistent morning practice. The body is not finished with you. It is asking you, quietly and without complaint, to work with it. You are the one who decides what the next season of your life looks like. Let me pull this together for you now. First, the standard morning routine most people carry. Past 60 asks the pancreas to surge before it has had a chance to settle, and that repeated demand builds a quiet inflammatory pattern over time. Second, 1 spoon of kuzu root starch, dissolved in warm water with freshly grated ginger, taken 15 to 20 minutes before the first meal, works alongside the body's glucose response and helps calm the inflammatory environment around the pancreas. Third, the order and temperature of the preparation matter. Warm water, fresh ginger, before the meal every morning for at least 7 consecutive days. Fourth, roasted barley tea within 30 minutes of the midday meal and a 10-minute walk after the largest meal of the day. Deep in the work, the morning preparation begins. If this teaching reached you today and you feel it may help someone you love, share it with them. Share it with a spouse or a sibling or the oldest friend who still answers the phone when you call. They may need this more than they know. Leave me a comment and tell me which part of this preparation surprised you most. I read every single comment on this channel, and it matters to me to know what is landing for you and what you still want answered. If you have not yet subscribed, this is a good moment to do that. And for those who want to bring that 3-part gut foundation into their daily practice alongside this morning ritual, the BoochBod link is waiting in the description below whenever you are ready to look. Until we speak again, take gentle care of yourself, dear friend.